Hey guys, wanted to record a very short video for my industry peers, other agents, whether they're newbies or been in the industry for a couple of years, right, in the Dubai real estate industry. We attend a lot of trainings, we read books, we are told by senior mentors, people who we look up to, and they always tell us, look, add value to a transaction. If you add value to that transaction with a client, whether they're buying or selling, that client's most likely going to refer you, probably give you more fees, and probably going to bring repeat business to you, right? So how do we add value, right? So my father shared an example, a story recently that for me actually really ran home the example, right? This story is narrated by somebody called Qaim Ali Shah. I don't know him personally, I've never heard this story from him, but apparently he's on YouTube, etc. Somebody told him about a thesis that was written on a fruit seller in some market in Pakistan or India, somewhere around that area, right? So this fruit seller who sells oranges would go out to the fruit market every day, right? And he would struggle to sell his lot, right? And the sun would be going down and he still hasn't sold, right? So one day in the morning, he said, I'm going to try something very interesting. What did he do? Everybody who came to actually buy a dozen oranges from him, he decided to try something different instead. So a dozen has 12, right? Instead of putting 12 pieces of orange in their bag and sending them on their way, he would put one extra orange, right? So they would go home, they would open up their bag and they would have 13 oranges. If somebody came for half a dozen, which is 6, he would give them one extra, which is 7, right? So lo and behold, as time went by, people in and around that area started to know this fruit seller. The word spread and he got more and more popular. What ended up happening was he would start selling at 8 and be done by 10, right? 10 a.m., right? Where all the other fruit sellers were still struggling and might still be struggling until sundown, he'd be sold, right? So how do we apply that to our industry, right? Obviously, it's obvious, I don't need to point out the obvious, that because he was giving more value to his clients, i.e. the one extra piece of orange in that case because it's a small transaction, he was getting more clients and more repeat business. Now in your and our business, we provide more value by going the extra mile, protecting our client financially better. We go the extra mile by doing those things that other agents are not going to be able to do or don't want to do, right? We are not lazy. We don't say this is not worth my time because the money that I'm getting is not enough for me, right? So we give extra value, and I'm going to teach you a small trick, right, of how you provide more value to your client. It's very simple. And I've actually started doing this more in the last 2 years. I've been in the real estate industry for the last 10 years, but I've been started doing this in the last more 2 to 3 years, right? It's very simple. Right at the beginning of the transaction, whether it's with a seller or a buyer, you sit them on the table and explain every single step of the process of what you're going to do for them. A lot of times agents don't do this, right? They actually either assume that the client knows what's going to happen at every single step. The client doesn't know. It could be his first transaction. You're doing your 100th transaction, but for the client it could be his first. He doesn't know the steps of buying a property in Dubai, or they're just lazy. They don't want to do it, right? Look, if you set the expectations in the beginning, tell them that at this stage I'll do this, then I will do this, then I will do this, and in the end this will happen. Guess what? The client and your expectations are going to be very aligned, and the chances of there being a misunderstanding are going to be fairly low, right? There could still be misunderstandings, but it would be very rare that a misunderstanding then happens because your expectations are aligned. And guess what happens right at the end of the transaction or during the transaction? If you're following the script and the client knows you're doing exactly as you told him, he's going to be pretty satisfied, maybe even happy with you. But if you at that stage go the extra mile, a little bit beyond than what you've already set as his expectation, then guess what? The client's going to be uber happy with you. He's going to be, wow, I didn't think of that, and my agent's really thinking about financially protecting my interest, because let's face it, it's their largest, biggest financial investment in their life, right? So they're going to go way beyond then being more happy with you and giving more references to you and giving you repeat business, right? That's how it works. Set the expectations right, meet those expectations, then exceed those expectations. It sounds very easy, sounds very simple, but please guys, do it at the beginning so that you don't pull your hair at the end and your client doesn't pull his or her hair at the end, and neither of you are unhappy. And the easiest way to set expectations, guys, if you're especially new, a couple of months in the business or a couple of years as well, look, the easiest way for you to be able to set those expectations with your client is for you to get out there and do more business than you've ever done. Because the more number of transactions you deal with, the more you know how things are going to go, right? If I'm baking my 100th or 1000th cake, I pretty much know the process, and I can pretty much tell you how the cake and the flour and the dough and the oven and the heat, how all of that's going to come together, right? But if you've done 3 or 4 or 5 transactions and you're lazy and you're not working hard enough, then guess what? You're not going to be able to set expectations for your clients very well, because some of the transactions, as easy as it might be in Dubai, get complicated. And if it's your first transaction, look, seek out a mentor's help. Then explain the expectations to whoever it is you need to explain to, right? Happy selling. I hope this video actually helps at least one person, a few of you out there. And, you know, let's create a better name for our industry, guys, all right?